As the controversy continues to throw the tenure elongation of Nigeria's Inspector General Police, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Prince Lateef Fagbemi has clarified that the continued stay in office of the Inspector General Police, Kayode Egbetokun, is both legal and lawful. IGP Egbetokun, who was appointed on October 31, 2023, was initially expected to retire upon reaching the mandatory retirement age of 60 on September 4, 2024. However, the amendment of the Police Act in 2024 has extended his tenure, allowing him to complete a full 4-year term, as stipulated under Section 7 of the Act. The AGF emphasized that the amendment law permits the IGP to remain in office for a 4-year term effective from the date of appointment, regardless of reaching the retirement age. As a result, IGP Egbetokun's tenure has been statutorily extended to October 31, 2027. The AGF reiterated that the extension of IGP Egbetokun's tenure is a statutory provision designed to ensure stability and continuity in the leadership of the Nigerian police force. Joining us now to take a look at the controversy is a rights analyst and director at Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Dr. Amadi. Welcome to News Night.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Help us understand its context. Is it a case of, how do you balance this case, for instance? Because they are saying it is lawful and it's about statutory, because 4 years he must spend in office. But again, on the other side, by 30 September, he was already 60. So how do you help us understand, unpack this controversy?
Well, I think it's multi-layered. And first is the legal. I think the AG is correct and the police is correct that by law, the IG's tenure is not, the IG is not illegal by legal definition. He ought to have, before the amendment, he ought to retire by September of this year, of last year.
Of last year, 2024.
24. Okay, so what happened was that the president appointed appointed IG, someone who served as his ADC. So there is the sense, of course, the president has executive power as the president of Nigeria, and executive branch is within him, so he could appoint anybody for good or bad reason. But he appointed and cleared some political alignment here. This is the guy he wants, who has been with him as ADC. And so this is my guy. So he appoints him, but unfortunately, time is running out of him. And the president wants him to be there for his first term, okay? We don't know whether he will be subject to reappointment, okay? I don't know whether that provision exists, but again, so now he's caught up with the fact that he has to quit about a year after appointment. Now, President Obasanjo did the same thing. Buhari allowed, kept on, extending that mandate. So what the president did was to say, okay, the law has caught up with us. But again, the National Assembly has the powers to amend the law. So it's politically self-serving, but legitimate for a president to take a bill to amend the law to align with outcome he wants. Now, it's for National Assembly to debate that, and it was debated, but again, the Senate unanimously, whatever that means, because the procedure, just okay, everybody just, in fact, many people wouldn't even be there. So first, I hold the National Assembly responsible. They make law, not the president. The president is entitled to propose the kind of law that aligns to what he wants. That's first, so legal. Now, the question is that people talk about the civil service rule and the police rule. Those rules are subsidiary, are subordinate to the act. The Constitution, again, basically says the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, which include the police forces, and of course, talks about the movement of the police. But there is nothing in the Constitution that detracts from the fact that the Electoral Act, as amended in July of 2024, is illegal or unconstitutional. So whereas the politics might be very distasteful in terms of the president basically using his power to propose a law to keep his guy in office, but there's nothing illegal about that. You can also be charitable and say, maybe we should see the IG's position as political. Basically, it is true that we appoint a police officer. Right. But being an Inspector General of Police is like a political appointment. And so he has a tenure, and maybe it's right to, I think, if this had been done before appointing a motor, the IG, it's actually a reasonable amendment, because what that means that you should give the officer appointed a tenure. And so it shouldn't be appointed till your service year is out. So if you appoint in 3 months, after 3 months, you exit. And since we usually appoint what has been equal, most of the senior people according to, so I think it's tidier to say you have a tenure, 4 years, subject to the president's, continue fating you. But what makes it bad is the fact that the law was actually done to favor him. It doesn't make it illegal. It makes it politically problematic, but not necessarily illegal. And that's the point that many people have not realized. Another level is the area of morale. And the people are talking about officers, instructions come from the Police Service Commission that the officers who are above 60 years or who have clocked 60 or 35 years ought to exit. So people are saying, okay, this guy ought to exist, but you exit everybody and leave the IG. So it's going to perhaps demoralize the service. But let's be very clear here. The IG is it's not about service, it's a political office, like I said. So I don't think really police officers will understand that this is, politically, yes, it's self-serving, but legally, it's not bad. Now the question then is, how does the National Assembly really factor this? I think it will be extremely difficult, even in the US, for a National Assembly to deny the president who says, align tenure in the act to a tenure, political tenure of an officer I want to work with. It will be extremely difficult for the National Assembly to reject. So I would also spare them to say, in the nature of politics, a National Assembly, except to have issue with the president, shouldn't consider that amendment as something to fight a president for. So it's not too extreme, in my view. That's the guy he wants. And he wants to keep in office till the tenure. And they change the law, which the National Assembly has the power to do. And there's nothing unseeming about that change. The only thing is that it's political self-serving, just like many laws are self-serving. You see, our people should understand the nature of politics. The executive branch, the Act says, Section 5 of the Constitution says, it's in the president. So the president manages the executive branch to achieve, hopefully, his strategic vision of governance. So that's why we elect the president. So we're going to hold the National Assembly responsible and the president responsible for the performance. But nothing in this is illegal in that sense. But everything in this is maybe politically self-serving, maybe not in the spirit of public good to say, okay, why this guy? Because he's a former ADC. So you change the law to align to that tenure. But beyond that, it looks like a reasonable law that if you appoint a Inspector General, you give him a reasonable tenure to execute that function. Right. And then that means he has to stay in office on good conduct for those reasonable time.
That's until 2027. Like,
well, in this case,
in this case. Well, do you think that we're going to see the president push for that, whether by way of lobbying the National Assembly? Does he have the power absolute to really push for this amendment to happen?
It has happened, really. This amendment was done in 2024.
Yes.
So there's okay.
Yeah, okay. Fair. So it has happened. But now that he's in the office, some critics are saying, look, I know they also responded to Omoyele Showore's
that is illegal. It's clear.
That they say it's illegal, and some other people have come up against the continued state of the IGP. But how do we move from here? How do we move ahead from here?
I think we should.
Are we going to see the AGF, take a step, perhaps, being the Attorney General of Federation, maybe speak up in this matter, or are we going to see the president himself? And since you already describe it as a politically, self-serving, we're going to see the president come up to defend this.
Well, I think really the AG. What the judge issued is sufficient to say, look, clarify legal position. The political conception is there. Again, this is it. Presidents, there is a little understanding about the executive branch business. Right. The president, as chief executive, and it's personal to him, plays politics legitimately. So, for example, the president makes appointments. Those people appointed as ministers, as advisors, as everything, are not appointed basically for their technical capabilities. It's the presidential discretion. So that's why you see some people, it looks like they're not too qualified. Right. But they're politically valuable to the president. So he has the right to appoint whoever he wants into that office. So it's politics, it's legitimate. Now, what we should do is to move on now and say, even if he appointed his ADC, which the law does not ask him not to do,
right.
even if he extended because he wants this guy, then how do we police the IG? How do we ensure that the policies is taken? And that's why I think Showore is doing a great job. Not to say it's illegal. I mean, that's bladderdash. This is a legal office. It's legal. But to say, for example, the IG has no right to frame a charge against Showore for saying it's illegal. It's legitimate speech. There's no cyber threat in it. It's legitimate speech. I mean, somebody can argue, even as I've said, similar authoritative that this is legal. Somebody can argue that it's illegal, go to court, and the judge may look at it in different ways. So that charge against Showore itself is disgraceful, almost silly, because it's an abuse of power by the Inspector of Police. The citizen of Nigeria has a right to describe some, just like people say Tinubu's appointment election is illegal, unconstitutional. He didn't win FCT. It might be bladderdash, it might be stupid talk, but as long as he has what is declared by INEC, Supreme Court has confirmed him, he's a valid president. But somebody can say that. So first thing is to say, whether it's a threat or not, the IG has to play by the rules. He has to play by the rules of the Police Act. He has to play by the rules of the Constitution. The courts have to hold him accountable. So the fact that he's Tinubu's guy and he's been extended to state, it does not clothe him with, unpatability, with no reversibility. His actions are still subject to public criticism, subject to protest by citizens, and subject to judicial review. So I think that we should move away from sterile debate as to its legality. It's legal. We should not say, okay, Tinubu has got this man. How do we ensure that Tinubu's man runs the police in an effective manner? Let's look at the IG's vision and mission. So far, the IG has not articulated, in my view, any significant vision of the police. I've not seen any reform. I'm not seeing effective leading the police into a new democratic season of accountability. So I'm more concerned with what the IG does. And I think the step of hounding Showore or trying him is really basically is negative. The police should move away, leave the Showore to continue to say they are illegal. But the fact is that authoritatively, by virtue of the law, by the National Assembly, the IG is legal. What matters now is how IG use that legal office now to disprove the sense that this is just political coddling and that perhaps it's being primed for a not too good role in run up to 2027. He has to strengthen confidence himself and public trust by the way he acts.
That's very important.
But that's not what he's doing, and that's the tragedy.
I think we just have to leave it there. Dr. Sam Amadi is the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Thank you for coming on Newsnight.
Thank you.
All right.